Okay, welcome to high vibration. And the highest vibration is who you are. The unbelievable mystery of life. This is the truth for everyone, even though 95% of the population or 98% is still completely lost in the illusion of the body-mind. However, the awareness of that great truth is inevitable, and we serve the planet, everyone, and the universe by being here and acknowledging the truth that sets us free. Inside and behind all appearances is that magnificent brilliance of light. In the silence, in between thoughts, is who we are and where we are. And isn't it wonderful to know that you don't got to do anything to earn it? You are it. You just got to let go. Let go of who you seem to be. I mean, those thoughts, they arise, they pass away. And the most important thing is to be love, to give love, because that's who we are.
Heaven, yeah.
Yeah. So, with that simplicity, with that perfection that we are and that awaits us, I don't need to say much more. I will pass the baton over to the Rainbow Warrior Goddess, who can share more words, more wisdom about this magnificence that you are, everyone is, and those who hear this recording. We trust that this will open up the portals of illumination more, so you can enjoy yourself more, enjoy your life more, because there's only two things. There's reality, which is who you are, the infinite perfection that pervades everything, and the temporary illusion. The more you tune in to the reality, the easier life gets, the more enjoyable life gets. So with that, Rainbow Warrior Goddess, the baton is yours to share.
Thank you, Bro Star Michael. Well, a perfect topic. I'm over here relocated in Bali now, and we've just been through one heck of an energetic week as far as the alignments and astrology. It was Nyepi, which is their Indonesian New Year, which was this huge festival of the gods going to war and murdering all the monsters and freeing the planet from all negative energies, and followed by a day of silence and fasting. And it was also Women's Day, International Women's Day, and women gathered all over the world to come together and in circles and share their experience about transforming jealousy to generosity and, ego to evolution and all these kinds of things. As you were saying, it is who we truly are. Our essence is infinite immortal consciousness. We are pure joy and bliss, and I actually have it tattooed on my arm. This is the rune Wunjo, which is joy, light, inspiration. Light at the end of the tunnel after a tremendous amount of suffering that tastes a lot sweeter. And at the time I got it tattooed on my arm, it was my 30th birthday. I hadn't had a heck of a lot of joy yet in my life. And as you're saying, the battle in this dualistic realm is between our divine masculine and our divine feminine. truly. That's how it's expressed. Our left brain, which is our ego, our rational mind, our logical brain, and our divine feminine, which is our emotional nature, our nurturing, our creativity, our divine self. And I'm personally not a proponent of eradicating the ego. I tried that. It doesn't work very good down here in duality. You need your ego to express yourself in the world and also protect you and keep you safe. It's not that fear is bad or guilt is bad or shame is bad, these emotions that we experience through the stories we tell ourselves as we have experienced in our human lifetime. But what is bad is when we believe that that's it and that's all we are. And unfortunately, at least in our Western culture, that's hammered home. 24 hours a day if you expose yourself to a lot of the mainstream media or television or radio or even just going out in public. It's just commercialism, and you are what you wear, you are how much money you make, you are all these external constructs that are not truth, and while they may be very real in that we've helped to give them power for a tremendous amount of time, that's not who we are. And at any moment in time, we can start to reclaim who we are and what we are and stop telling us the stories. Most people aren't aware of it, but by the time you're 7, most of your belief systems are installed on the back of who you are and what you are in this world. It expands a little more, but pretty much the framework is done by about 7. And until we start having experiences where what we thought we were supposed to do or who we're supposed to be doesn't bring us the joy that we truly are or the fulfillment, he who dies with the most toys always wins, right? That's what we grew up with. That certainly is not the truth. And I grew up on Martha's Vineyard, so it was even more keep up with the Joneses. It was all about, not wanting to be just like all the wealthy, rich, and famous, empowered elite that would come to the island in the summer in order to be successful or be somebody, and the only reason we'd ever need to feel to be someone is if we think we're not already. And fortunately, actually, I learned at a very early age that from my experience of being around the vast majority of those people of power on all different levels, that they weren't very happy. And I somehow internalized that it wasn't okay for me to be financially successful or I would be miserable. Or I would have to marry a much older, wealthy man and give up all my freedom and joy and never have a young, handsome guy in order to have the things I wanted or be successful or wear nice clothes or nice jewelry or things like that. And boy, that story didn't work very well for me. But unfortunately, we have a choice here. Some of us, there's many different places people are in the world, and there's a great awakening going on. We have lived under a patriarchal structure for thousands of years, and we actually had a matriarchal structure before that. So everyone thinks about the arising of the goddess is about taking over the masculine again, and I'm not really for that. We already did the days of eunuchs. That doesn't really do much for me as a goddess. I want a man, and every inch of him, all of his being. I want him in his power, in his strength. I just want him to use his ego to support his heart and his divine masculine for chivalry and protection and to create. The divine feminine, the womb of all creation, the feminine energy is very nurturing and creative. That's why we bring children into the world. But we couldn't do so without the masculine. And in nature, the female, let's say a lioness, for example, if she doesn't have the lion around to protect her, she's not as free to go off to go get food for her cubs without worrying about them not being safe. Excuse me. And I think we're at that time now where it's about coming into balance with our divine masculine and feminine together to honor and serve each other. And this goes through all aspects of life because most people don't come to this realization unless they have some kind of disappointment or tragedy in their life. And what I mean by disappointment, it could be a very positive one. It could be you have your wife, you have your job, you have your career, your house is paid for, you've done all the things you thought you were supposed to do in your life, and yet there's still something missing. Because it seems like now that aside if you're not tuned into television and you're in this consciousness awakening that's going on, people are starting to ask the important questions, which we seem to be distracted from the time we're in kindergarten, which is, who am I and why am I here? And what did I come to bring to this earth? What gifts did I come to share with mankind and the planet? And actually, the crazy part is all those challenges that we face in our life, we think, oh, it's the world against us. I at least fell for that very deeply. Oh, there's a curse on me or something. All these terrible, awful things. Why do they happen to me? I must have done something really bad in a past lifetime. I must be a really bad person. When somewhere along the line in my 20s, I realized that there's no reason why I had survived the tremendous amount of tragedies that I had occurred in my life already in my 20s. And I started to realize that it wasn't about little me. It wasn't about that ego. It wasn't about looking all good on the outside, even though at that time I'd already been a model and all these other things. I'd gone to school for genetic engineering on scholarship, but nothing. I kept walking away whenever I got anywhere. I walked away from my degree. I walked away from. I got sent out to be a supermodel. Blew that off. I didn't think I was pretty enough. I didn't think I was. The stories that I told myself, and it's really important that when we get to that challenge point. Those challenges are brought us because we're lacking initiation in our current culture. There's not much that really forces us to face who we think we are until we start delving into the spiritual practices and really researching on a deep level, doing our shadow work, doing our mirror work, even taking a practice such as meditation or yoga or martial arts or any of the vast amount of energy modalities that are exploding from excuse me, a modern version of people are getting into ancient arts like shamanism and indigenous cultures and their various belief systems, and we're taking them all and synergistically blending them into a higher vibration, the same way, like a meritage, the way you would take different types of wine and blend them, and the one you put together is much, much softer and more beautiful and full and tastes much better than any of the single wines alone together that you created them from. But when you start to get in there, you start to realize that in those challenges, you start to realize your strength. And then you also start to realize that what gave you so much trouble before is starting to turn into a gift for you to share with others. And once you find that first one and use it well, and share it, then you start to find all these others, and the world just opens up. In a nutshell, I can tell you my personal experience was to come from a very, very, very dysfunctional Catholic-raised family that was an immigrant for very dysfunctional, alcoholic, a lot of sexual abuse in the family, these kinds of things. And there was never really any hope or possibilities ever put upon me. I was always given just limitations, and I could never do this and I could never do that. And those challenges actually eventually inspired me to become very strong and say, oh yeah, well, why not? And when I got broken down for about the 5th or 6th time in the world and had to try to recreate myself and have the courage to get up off my knees and realize that, you know what? This is all you're going to get out of this world is what you put into it. And if I believe what I'm told from the outside, and I don't see it, I don't see those things happening. You see it on the TV show, but in my real world, in 3D reality, that wasn't my experience. And I did have I'm very lucky in that I seem to have brought in a tremendous amount of joy. I'm kind of like a human golden retriever. Anyone who's known me ever since I was a little girl, I really do. I smile all the time. I love to look at the glass half empty. I mean, half full. Freudian slip there. And I'm wagging my tail going, let's play. How can I serve? Let's make this a fun time. And that basically, I think it was part of my character, but I think it also evolved from being in such a dark place as a child. You know, there really wasn't any love in my family from anyone, in my immediate or my bigger family. And I actually used to say that all my children had nothing on my family when I was a kid because they watched all the soap operas and lived for Erica Kane and all these kinds of things. And I was just like astounded as a child being babysat by my grandparents or sitting home with my mother sick or whatever, going, why does everyone watch this stuff? Because everybody's so mean to each other. And the reality is that most children model or play with or try what they experience. And as adults, when we hit any kind of brick wall, whether it's through severe illness or just not feeling fulfilled, even though you have everything you think you're supposed to, you start to go inside. And when you go inside, you got to go through the darkness into the light. One by one, we go through all those constructs that have been imposed upon us and figure out that, hey, this only has the power I give it. We can, whatever we put our focus on, even quantum physics proves this. All of this third dimensional physical realm is really just particles or waves, but they exist as potential waves until we put our focus on them, and then only do they become solid. So whatever we give our energy to and our focus is what we help to create. And from my genetics background, we were taught that there's all this junk DNA and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not really the truth. There's a wonderful man by the name of Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's the father of epigenetics. And actually, he discovered that even though we were taught all this stuff about genes, that isn't really how they worked. What actually turns your DNA codons on and off is what you believe. For example, it's not wired into your ancestors may have had cancer or mental illness or various different things, but that doesn't mean that that's your curse for life. Mm-hmm. I believe firmly and wholeheartedly that what our genes and DNA and our astrological constructs, all the various different mapping, you can go into everything from human design to Mayan astrology to Vedic astrology, Chinese, and it just maps a puzzle piece of, basically, I love to use the analogy of the Wii game. You know, when you make a little mini me in Wii, you get to pick the hair color and the eye color and the nose and the shape and the clothes, any kind of avatar. And that's basically what my soul chose in this lifetime, and that it thought would be the best to have me experience what I wanted to experience and help me remember what knew I was going to choose to forget when I incarnated. In order to have that hero's journey, and everyone is a hero on this planet right now. I don't care who you are, where you are, whether you're some of the most amazing heroes in this world are in some of the most difficult life situations. I've been traveling the world for about 1.5 years now, all over, and I've seen everything from the most vast natural beauties to the most extreme poverties. And to see these little children that barely have food or clothes to eat, yet they can still smile and play and run around. You know, then you have the parents, all the refugees moving all over because our government systems, mind control, government control mind, you know, and our banking systems and our educational systems. Virtually every system that we have on the planet that's existing in power right now is fraudulent. And I believe that we allowed this to happen by giving our power away. And we're all heroes here, taking pieces of that in our DNA, in our genes, in our ancestral lineage, to embody that and embrace it and reclaim who we truly are and our power and come and co-create a whole new earth. And once you start on that path, there's no stopping. And don't let me, the New Age has a thing that it's all light. It's all light. Don't look at the darkness. And that's a very dangerous piece of reverse propaganda. Because, yes, you do want to focus on the light and you want to look at the positive, but you also have to have things in context. If you don't face the darkness, you don't see it. You don't do your shadow work. And what I mean by darkness is the things none of us want to look at. No one wants to look at the fact that our political system is extremely failing, that our money is created out of thin air and it's a rigged game, that there are corporations that have taken over the world and trying to destroy our food supply and all this. But you know what? They've been doing it forever. Nothing's any different other than we're waking up to it. And people all over are taking a piece of what inspires them the most to create better in the world and changing it. And the reason you're finding it all out now is because collectively we're choosing to face our shadows. We're choosing to look at those really scary things. And when you take the monster or the vampire out of the closet into broad daylight, it's really not so scary, you know? And it's also about cowboy and Indian. But then you have to decide who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, the cowboy or the Indian. And realize that they're just flip sides of the same coin. And that it's just how everything appears in duality. God and the devil, or whatever you want to use, or light and dark, or good and bad. It all depends on your perspective. And really what it is about taking into consciousness our whole awareness and exploring all that we've hidden. And when you go through that darkness, and it dissolves, and then there's this infinite power. And I've had the really wonderful, yet still can't, it's been almost 6 years since my first extreme Kundalini experience, and I still can't put it into words good in the English language, because it's really ineffable. It's really indescribable. It's amazing. And what I mean by that is when your chakras, the whole point of doing meditation or yoga is to arise our Kundalini energy, which is our serpent power. It's actually symbolic of the caduceus of the medical system. They co-opted it. The Sushumna being the stem and the two snakes rising around it. That's the Ida and the Pingala, the divine masculine and feminine. And their cosmic dance arising through all your chakras as it purifies and meets in your pineal gland. And from that, your pineal gland is stimulated to produce DMT, otherwise known as dimethyltryptamine, which is a hallucinogen that actually babies produce for about the first 2 years of their life, which is why they're giggles most of the time. You know, when babies giggle, they just can't stop. Well, most of it had, and also contributed to the oxytocin their mother's breast milk is giving. But, and you have an experience where you're one with all that is. You are that God. Actually, the biggest thing was that I felt like I was this huge, ginormous multiverse squished into this little human body, and I'm not a little human by any means. I'm 5'10", and I'm a strong woman, and I'm very voluptuous, and I have a lot of personal power. But when you experience who we truly are, it's a very humbling process, number one. And number two, it gives you a whole new rewiring of your priorities and what is important. And the rules of the game that we were taught about how to function in this world completely change, and you start to follow your heart and your spirit. And once you do that, the universe realigns to come upon you and start creating wonderful things. And I am going to put out one little piece here, because contrary to popular belief, that's the end-all, be-all of existence here. And actually, it's just the beginning of the spiritual warriorship, because Kundalini, and the reason it's never written down, is also fraught with death and rebirth over and over and over again. And I've literally had to recreate myself and my life about 5 or 6 times over. Just everything changes. Your priorities change. Your friends change. You start growing so fast that your environment has to change in order for you to keep going and thriving. But that it's just like a fish in a river. You know, only the dead fish go with the flow. The salmon swim upstream. They're following the energy. They're going against it. It's like in yoga, when you have a little resistance, all of a sudden you can go up into a headstand. And once that little shift occurs. So, but when I shared the invitation for this, I have a meme that I made with my son when he was about 4, and he was in one of those bouncy balloon rooms where the kids jump and play, and his hair was all staticky. And I put, raise your vibration. The thing is there's a lot of stuff in the New Age movement that teaches that there's going to be, we have higher beings higher than us that are going to save us, or, the aliens are going to come rescue us, or the fact of the matter is that everything you need to save yourself is right here. And we are infinitely strong, and we have far much more grace and gratitude and forgiveness inside of us than we ever thought was possible. And how we actually end up growing in duality has been primarily through trauma and tragedy. And I think it's time we change that, because it doesn't have to just be that way. Your soul can choose to come in and experience wonderful things and be moved and grow stronger as a result of love and unconditional love and sharing and supporting others. There was this amazing woman in the circle last night, and what we were sharing was everything has to be, intimate. So I won't speak other than say that what she shared was that her greatest joy was that she was in her 60s and married and a mother and a grandmother and traveling the world, and was so happy that she was in an extremely loving relationship because she had seen so much loss and separation everywhere else and a lot of the places she'd been. And I said, you hold that energy. Thank you. That's probably one of the most difficult ones right now, to have manifested a lifetime love. She was just glowing like a 16-year-old. And it wasn't just words. A lot of us, including myself, especially when I was younger, would hide my pain by going into joy. I was in denial of it, which is why I work with shadow work now. I help people. I hold space for people to go into those scary places and those parts of themselves that they've rejected, that they don't like, that they don't think are so beautiful. They're afraid to be judged with on the outside, and help them come realize that, oh, you know what, that's just a story from when I was a little girl. And I help them hold space for it and really feel it. And when we embrace it and allow it, that's all emotions want. They want to be noticed and embraced. And then I teach them to thank it for its lesson and blow it out to the universe to be transformed into something more beautiful, like we all can. But, and even over and over again in this lifetime. I thought I was healed and done, and when I was like 36, and then it was, oh no, 40, and then, oh no, there's nothing that I can ever experience that'll floor me, that, I'm fearless, and oh yeah, well, I just dare you to take a piece of the spiritual ego, little chip on the shoulder there. The universe will say, oh yeah, well, if you think you've got that, well, here, let me show you this. And I'm not going to take up too much time going into my personal story, but let's just say that I really am not sure, other than losing my life, of any violation in this earth that I haven't experienced yet. And I think that's pretty much actual. So I've faced chronic degenerative disease and the loss of my child and being estranged from my family, sexual abuse, everything. Being falsely accused of doing crimes and put in jail and all these things. And unjustly at that. So, and I sit here and I said, you know what? I'm not going to settle for being a loser in this world. And I'm not going to settle and silence myself, because I have the courage to speak the truth when a lot of people don't. And in the beginning, like 10, 15 years ago, when I started talking about, a lot of the issues that need to be faced in this world, it made me a social pariah. I wasn't very popular. But now, after staying strong and realizing that you didn't have to just drill home, you don't want to focus all on the darkness either. That robs your soul. Now, I don't have to focus on that so much, and I can focus on helping people go in and hold space and create light and create the things that are going to be replacing the systems that are falling, because it's not about, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. The world's never coming to an end. It's just being recreated into a different form. And we have the power. And all of us on this planet right now are souls who chose to be here in these very powerful transformational times in order to have a peace. We've all got our own little needle with a thread, and we're weaving this ginormous tapestry that even when we don't have a pattern, we're just like bees. We're just sitting there and sewing in whatever right in front of us, and then look, oh my God, goddess, look at that person, and we start sewing in with them, and this beautiful tapestry is evolving. And we don't even need to know where it's going. We just need to have our own vision, and the universe will co-create a higher version. So it's really important. I know that things are looking really scary, especially over there in the U.S. right now. And as I said, it's not any different than it was hundreds of thousands of years ago, other than maybe we have the internet and we can intricately look at it and see it, and we can't hide from it as much anymore. But we came here to change this world. We didn't come here to lie down. And I thank who I call the powers that were for the amazing, appropriate lesson and the inappropriate use of power, because we chose to give our power away. And this is what resolved. And I believe where we're going and where we're evolving as all our 64 DNA codons become activated, Because right now we only utilize about 20 of them as a divine human imprint, and that we are becoming that immortal consciousness incarnate in the body. I don't believe Kundalini is about leaving your body anymore. I believe it's about going to that level, and a legion of us containing that and being able to hold it in this physical body and transform it without having to change bodies. And by grounding that energy, there is the rebirth and the transformation that's so apparent on the planet. And that's the deal.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for your sharing, and let there be light and blessings, and namaste.
Namaste.